Hey guys, Shoddy here with the development of Halo Combat Evolved. I think it's only fair that we start this series where it all started. Halo Combat Evolved. Before we get into Halo CE, we need to go back to what started the process for this groundbreaking game. Myth was a real-time strategy game that Bungie had developed prior to working on Combat Evolved. Following the success of Myth's Soul Blighter, they talked amongst themselves about the success of the Myth franchise. They thought that maybe it would have been more successful if it were a sci-fi RTS like StarCraft. StarCraft was a highly successful game, but Myth had a fully three-dimensional world, so Bungie was one step ahead with this feature. Bungie got to work on a 3D sci-fi RTS game that they initially called Monkey Nut. It was using a modified version of the Myth engine. The vehicles, looking like today's military Humvees, they were trying to figure out the best way to control them. And thus, they strayed from the traditional point-and-click mechanics and decided it was more enjoyable to give players direct control of the vehicle with a third-person camera. Eventually, they were driving around the map in what became the Warthog, and they decided the whole game should be like this. And suddenly, they were making a third-person action game, set to drop at the end of the year 2000. At this point in development, the ring world known as Halo was introduced, along with an alien race known as the Covenant, who had landed on the ring. Eventually, this would erupt into a war. You would be able to play as either side in an online multiplayer battle. When this game entered the 1999 behind closed doors showing at E3, it required journalists to sign a very strict non-disclosure agreement. This created a huge amount of buzz. The press were saying stuff like, the game that they liked most was by Bungie, and they couldn't even talk about it. This caught Steve Jobs' attention, who had recently rejoined Apple. They were looking for ways to show off the power of the Mac for a game. Bungie took the offer. With Macworld weeks away, the game had no title or soundtrack. A branding company suggests naming it Covenant, but it was shot down. Bungie's Paul Russell suggested the name Halo. People at Bungie initially rejected this, saying it was too on the nose, but it stuck. Marty O'Donnell had only days to compose a score that would play over the Macworld demo footage. It was supposed to sound ancient and mysterious, so he hired a group of monks and an orchestra and made something amazing. Following Steve Jobs' Macworld demo, Halo exploded. It became one of the most anticipated games across 3 continents, but the game was far from finished, and Bungie was running out of money. Imagine never having the Halo experience. Imagine Halo was never a thing. This was almost a reality. But luck was on Bungie's side, because, as luck would have it, Microsoft were developing their first gaming console, the Xbox. The head of Microsoft at the time was looking for a game exactly like Halo to add to their launch offer. They took the offer from Microsoft and now were developing for a console. Suddenly, the controller was the main interface instead of a mouse and keyboard. They decided that since the triggers on a controller was a lot like the triggers on a gun, their game should be in first person. Jamie Griesemer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, hated the idea of a controller, but was the reason that Halo felt good on the controller. First-person shooter just wasn't made for the controller. Other first-person shooter games used hard lock auto aim, which moved the reticle directly onto your target. Halo used soft lock auto aim, which made it feel like the player had complete control. Instead of the camera moving where the stick was pointing, you were able to use the stick to move the camera to where you wanted to look. A 2-weapon limit was implemented, since the controller didn't have number keys, to switch through an entire arsenal. Months before release, Halo had mechanic, but no campaign or multiplayer. The character Future Soldier was named Master Chief, and was given an AI named Cortana. Level designers raced to complete the campaign, making up time by reusing assets. Multiplayer was also put in, and Halo CE was released on November 15, 2001. And it went viral. Reception was very positive. This was the first time since GoldenEye that FPS worked on console. For the first time, graphics were groundbreaking. Halo was revolutionary.